Alright guys, welcome back. This is segment number 4 of this $6 no limit hold'em tournament. And the player was just knocked out last hand. The player now is sitting out in the big blind, but he's only got 103 chips. And we have a limp from early position. I have queen jack from position, so I'm going to call. And this player has a very small stack as well. So I flop a pair of queens. This player is sitting out, but all in. I'm going to take a little stab and try and isolate. And we'll get just that. And I'll win the hand, and because he was sitting out, I'll pick up his $2. He didn't even bother trying to, maybe he had a king, but if he was sitting in, he could have won the hand. But he sat out, and I won the hand, picked up another $2. So far, I'm going to pull up the lobby again. So far, we're down to, where are we at? We're down to 20, nope. Takes a while to update sometimes. We're down to 14 players. We started with 129. So far, I've knocked out 8 players. I've made $16 in the bounty, and I've made $8 in the actual tournament. So about $24 so far. And this player has a straight. This player has 2 pair. One player is gone. And I have ace-10 of diamonds. The big blind is by himself. There's no small blind. But I have a decent hand, and I'm going to raise it up. 4,500. Guy here has a similar size stack to me. This guy only has 1,100 left, so there'd be no reason not to try and put them all in. He's going to call. Just hopefully my ace high is good. And it's not. He's got a better ace. So luck is not going my way so far in this later stages of the tournament. But I'm just playing the cards the way I should. I got really unlucky in the last part of the last video. When I made a straight, I was forced into the hand by being in the big blind, and he just happened to flop the nuts and slow played it to the river, and got lucky that I had a 4-card straight. So, but we're almost to the final table, and I'm now below average, which is 29,000. But I'm not at all worried about my chip stack size because I have been, chip leader for, or at least high in chips for a long time. And I just took one bad beat, which put me below average. So can't be worried about my chip stack size because I'm very close to average chip stack size. So still plenty of poker able to be played. So we'll see what happens. So I pick up pocket kings from first position. I'm gonna do a little tricky play with just a limp. It looks kind of weak. A raise would look very strong though. So I'm just gonna limp and hope somebody else raises. But everybody folds around to the big blind. And he could have a 10 because he got to see it for cheaply. So I'm going to bet it and see what he wants to do. If he has a 10, then I might have gotten myself into trouble. And I don't like just the call. And he just bets the turn. I think he may be trying to find out if I have a 10 with that bet. Min bet is what he, I think my kings are good here. I think he has just a deuce. So I'm going to go for a small raise. 5,000. I think he would call that with a deuce. I really don't think he has a 10 from the way he's bet this hand. He does not. I want to see what he had. I really think he just had a deuce. He had ace jack. He had worse than I thought. He had ace high. So he paid off my river bet with ace high. I appreciate that. So ace 3 in the big blind. Couple limpers, pair of 3s, and a backdoor heart draw. But most likely I am not good in this hand right now with 4 players in the hand. And considering he leads out from first position, I think he's got a queen. It's really the only likely thing. And everybody else folds as well. So I'm back up to an above average chip stack. Been hovering at this area for quite some time. Considering nobody else is in the hand, I'm just going to fold that one. I'd be out of position and just not going to get involved with a bad hand. I might come after these blinds here, and I'm going to do so. 5,500. It looks like a blind steal attempt, and it basically is. I don't have the biggest of hands, but I will call your all in with 11,000. I'm already committed, so I'll steal the blinds. And the blinds are quite valuable. 4,200 up for grabs every time. You know, that's 10% of my stack at this point. I'm going to do the same thing here. You know, 4,200 out there up for grabs. I'll take my chances with trying to steal it. I have position. You know, that's what you have to do when you have the advantage of position. Have to be aggressive towards the blinds. And again, if this guy shoves, I'm committed. I have to call. He knows that. So he's taking his time thinking, should I go here? And I don't want to see him go all in, but I have to call. Sure taking his time. And they both fold. And I'll pick up another 4,200. So we are down to 12 players now. 2 more players out, and we will be at the final table. I'm going to be in the big blind this hand. So there's 6 players at each of the 2 tables. So we're short-handed currently. But that will change when we get to the final table. And I've just been at 40,000 basically the entire time. And I'm just going to fold here. He doesn't have a whole lot of chips, and I don't have a whole lot of a hand. Jack 6 in the small blind. Basically the same situation I was in a minute ago when this guy was in the big blind, but this time there's a different player in the hand. So I'm halfway in there with better pot odds, and I will call. So I flop an open-ended straight draw. Going to check it and try and keep it cheap for now. I don't expect him to check here, but he does. I'm going to try and bet here about half the pot. He could easily have a queen and have been afraid of it on the flop. Obviously, I just had a straight draw. I'm going to have to bet again. Just a little 6,500. Looks like a little value bet with the queen. And he calls with a pair of 7s. Very good call. Or very bad call, however you look at it. But this is the same player that I pointed out a minute ago is calling me with ace high on the river. So I probably should have kept that in mind, that he's a very loose caller. And I will keep that in mind from here on out. But he took a good size stack off me right there with his loose calls. But I have been, you know, in my opinion, I've been very aggressive in this tournament in the earlier stages, but not so much in the past couple of hours. So I don't know how he picked up on that. I don't think that he did. I think he's just a bad player. And I'm not going to try and steal these blinds here because I have done so the past round. I stole them twice. Not going to bother doing it with 7 deuce. Okay, so the big blind, Jack 6 offsuit. And every one of my tables still has a decent sized stack, enough to play. They don't have to be too aggressive. And I'm back down to 29,000 when I started this hand. I flopped a pair of 6s. This guy limping in here could have a range, you know, a very loose range. You would think that he would come after the blinds if he had a good hand. I'm gonna bet trying to represent the 8, but I basically have the 8 with my 6. Basically the same thing. Small blind 6-9 suited. And there's a raise to 6,000. I'm out of position. Re-raise, it's going to be an easy fold for me. And we might lose a player this hand, so I'll let you guys watch it. He's thinking about it. I don't know why you'd be thinking you've already committed more than half your chips. So we'll see what happens. A set of 10s is most likely going to win the hand. It's over. Well, he could have had a quad 7 on the river was his only chance, but that means we are down to 11 players. So one more player out, and we have made the final table. And this is basically the first tournament that I've played in probably 2 weeks. I took a big break. I haven't made a video in a while, so I feel good to make a final table. I'm going to come after these blinds here. No reason to slow down just because we're close to the final table. That's a very small raise for me, though, 4,500. But I won the pot. So the blinds just went up last hand, 15 and 3,000. And if you take a look at the lobby, the player in 11th place has 6,000 chips, so he only has 2 big blinds, so we're just about there. I'm in 5th place with my 37,000. The average chip stack is 35, so still hanging on to an average chip stack. Still plenty of poker to be played. And whenever I'm, late in a tournament like this, I like to compare myself to where I would be at the beginning of a tournament, in order to give myself an idea of how much poker I can play and how patient I can be. If this was the beginning of a tournament, we would start with, 3,000 chips. So I'm a little bit above average, and when you start a tournament, everybody has the same amount of chips. So at that point, the average chip stack is 3,000. So I imagine that I have, 3,100, just a little bit above average at the beginning of a tournament. So I can be just as patient as I would be at the beginning of a tournament right now. And let's say I had like 17,000 or 15,000. If I had 15,000, then I would have half of an average stack, which would be, at the beginning of a tournament, 1,500 chips. So I always like to compare myself to where I would be at the beginning of a tournament, just to give myself an idea of how patient I can be. People tend to go out faster in the later stages of a tournament, and they don't really see, how patient you can be. I'm going to easily fold my queen 7 there. And we're basically hand for hand. That's why it's taken so long in between hands, waiting for the other player, or the 11th player, to go out before we make the final table. So I have king 8, a little better than average hand. Just going to call. He doesn't have a whole lot of chips left, and if he shoves, I'll probably just fold. And that's really only his option. If he wants to raise, his only option is to shove. I mean, he could raise, but he's going to commit himself to the pot if he raises, so why not just go all in if you're going to raise it all? But he's also being patient to make the final table as well. He may be watching the other table to see if he can, gamble. Because I believe the next player out, there's a little difference in money, and a lot of these players are, here for $2, and they're here for a small buy-in, and they're looking to make that little bit of money. So, and it's looking like he's going to let his entire clock run out. And if that's the case, I might just win the hand if he folds. I'm not sure how they do it here, I forget. But if he does just sit out, I might just win the hand. But if he sits out, I'll probably just bet the flop no matter what it is. He's basically sitting out at this point. And I'll bet and win the hand. Here's an ace. Again, this player is sitting out. I have plenty of chips to try and steal these blinds. And I'm not going to make it cheap. I'm going to try and show the big blind that I am committing myself if he wants to play. I do have an ace, and I will call your all in. I'll pick up the 6,000. So the big blind, 6-3 offsuit. Second time this guy's made this same play against me with the min raise, trying to steal my blinds from position. And it's the second time he's going to win it. So I'll let him think that he can easily steal my blinds, but I just have a bad hand and I can't play. But he may have that mentality that I'm weak and that I don't like to play against his raises, but I have no fear in playing when someone's coming after my blinds. I will play. It does the same thing here, and if you notice the big blind's sitting out, and I just said that I don't like to fold to people like that, but I am going to fold here because I am still out of position. I don't have much, and it cost me 4,500 to call. So he's being very aggressive towards those blinds. And we're getting very close to the 15-minute marker. So hopefully when we come back, we'll be at the final table. Well, right there we are, right at the final table. So I'm going to go ahead and end this segment. This is the end of segment number 4. And I will see you guys in segment number 5. Thanks for watching.